My childhood friend played a prank casually. He used my completed summer homework as a coaster. When I found it, the homework had a big hole in it. It was also stained with grease. I was so angry that I gave him the cold shoulder until my first day after transferring to his school. I overheard some boys spreading a rumor that he liked me. Other classmates chimed in, agreeing enthusiastically. Gu Qinghan is probably just afraid of distracting you from when you graduate and go to college. He'll definitely confess his feelings. Hearing this, I let out what an absurd fantasy. Both of them stopped in their tracks. They turned around and glared at me fiercely. Song Jingyan frowned and demanded, "What are you?" I looked at them and calmly replied, "I'm laughing at your infatuation, at your poor taste, at your daydreams." Song Jingyan was about to explode with anger. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Gu Qinghan. He deliberately put on a warm smile and said, "Classmate, look at us. Aren't we harmonious? Direct your anger at me. No need to badmouth Qinghan. He's good-looking and academically excellent. We're not wrong to say that, are we?" I sneered dismissively. "Gu Qinghan is the school beauty? Did you crown him, or did he crown himself? Besides, does being pretty matter? Even if he chased after me, I wouldn't care. If you like him, go chase." Hearing this, he turned to Gu Qinghan and said, "Qinghan, you heard that. I'm sorry, don't take it to heart. He's just trying to provoke us on purpose." Song Jingyan had calculated the timing of he deliberately provoked, knowing Qinghan would hear every word. Sure enough, Qinghan stood behind me, hearing the entire conversation clearly. On the first day of school, I offended the campus idol. Let's see if my future days will be any better. Song Jingyan secretly felt smug about his scheme, but the result completely surprised him. Gu Qinghan said nothing, glanced at me briefly, and walked straight. I looked at Song Jingyan, then I followed him into the classroom. Song Jingyan gritted his teeth in frustration. He didn't expect that this guy would also be in. What? That's it. The onlooking students were clearly unsatisfied with the drama. They quickly lost interest and dispersed. At my desk, my friend Sukeke waved at Gu Qinghan as he entered. "Qing'an, why are you so late? Have you finished your summer? Let me copy it." Ever since Gu Qing'an walked into the room became noticeably quieter. The girls lowered their playful chat, knowing that Gu Qinghan disliked noise. Meanwhile, the boys focused intently on him, their faces full of infatuation. I knocked on Gu Qinghan's. With a tone of slight impatience, I said, "Move your desk forward a bit, will you? This spot is too cramped for me to sit." Although my voice wasn't loud, the classroom was so quiet that it drew everyone's attention. Who is this guy, they wondered. How dare he talk to Gu Qinghan and even knock on his desk? Gu Qinghan looked up at me. I stood tall and stared down at him while he met my gaze sharply. We locked eyes for several tense seconds. Everyone speculated about what would happen. After all, Gu Qinghan hated no matter how handsome they were, especially not when their tone carried such defiance. But to everyone's surprise, Gu and moved his desk a significant distance forward. I sat down calmly, as if nothing had happened. The spectacle ended before it even began. Everyone was left bewildered. Did the campus idol lose his voice today? Why didn't he get angry? Why does he listen to this new guy? Such an interesting event was naturally shared across the entire school. Soon, the school's bulletin was buzzing with a new hot topic. Breaking news. Breaking news. A handsome guy just transferred to class 3. He challenged the campus idol on his first day. In the classroom, I had just found my seat and sat. The boy sitting at the adjacent desk. In a low voice, he said, "Sorry, Zhang Haoshi. I didn't get a chance to tell you earlier. There's only one seat left in the class, the one next to me. It's because Gu Qinghan said the front desks were and his long legs couldn't fit. So he's always pushed his desk to the back. That's why no one ever sits next to me." What Gu Jie said wasn't wrong, but it wasn't the whole story. Gu Qinghan's legs were indeed long, and he disliked feeling cramped. But there was another, more important reason. He didn't like the people sitting in front of him. Some people always found excuses to turn, which annoyed him. I slowly pulled out a workbook from my bag and smiled faintly at, "It's fine, Gu Jie. He won't say anything." "What did you say?" Gu Jie doubted his ears. Did it sound like Zhang Haoshi was quite familiar with I shook my head and said nothing. But in my heart I thought, well, Gu Qinghan, I didn't expect you to, but sorry. Now that I'm here, your reign as king is over. You've never beaten me before, and you're not about to start now. Do you plan on rebelling or what? I smirked at my own thoughts. Amidst the murmurs and whispers, our homeroom teacher, Old Zhang, walked. "Shh, Old Zhang is here, quiet down." The classroom quickly fell silent. Old Zhang hung a sign next to the black. It read 283 days until he cleared his throat and scanned the room. His eyes finally landed on me, the new face in the class. Pointing at me, he said, "Our new student, please stand up and introduce yourself." In less than an hour since I entered the classroom, I had already drawn plenty of attention. I had been in the classroom for less than an hour. I had already attracted plenty of attention. Everyone was curious about me. I stood up abruptly, but my legs couldn't the space between was still a bit too tight. Hello everyone, my name is Jiang Haoshi, and I've transferred from experimental height. I hope we can all improve in the days to come. Observant classmates noticed that as I spoke, Gu Qinghan quietly pushed his chair forward again. By the time I finished speaking, and there was even some space, not bad, very good, Jiang Haoshi's grades are excellent. You should help each other as classmates. Old Zhang smiled and gestured for me to sit down. I hesitated for a moment before speaking. Teacher, what is it? Do you have more to say? Clutching my stomach, I hesitated. I need to use the restroom. Some classmates with a low tolerance for burst into laughter. Old Zhang waved his hand. Go quick. When I returned to the classroom, Old Zhang had already begun his lecture. One class period passed, and by the time it ended, I was slumped over my desk, clutching my stomach and looking drained. Jiang Haoshi, are you okay? Do you need me to take you to the school clinic? Gu Jie touched the back of my head with... I forced a weak smile. I'm fine. I just ate something bad last night. Gu Qinghan, who had just stood up from his glanced in my direction. He silently left the classroom with his water. A short while later, he holding a box of medicine and a cup of hot water. Under the gaze of the entire class, he placed them on my desk. Sukeki rubbed her eyes. No way. Am I seeing this right? Qinghan, you gave him your own cup? And you bought him medicine. Sukeki reached out to feel Gu Qinghan's forehead. Tilting her head in confusion, she said, no fee. Gu Qinghan, something's off with you. You seem to have a situation. Gu Qinghan brushed off Sukeke's hand. Stop it. For a moment, the classroom erupted into, doesn't Gu Qinghan have a cleanliness Isn't. Men and women should keep their distance. His Gu the smiling flower actually took care. Who exactly is this new boy? Right, Gu the smiling flower not only wasn't angry, but even cared about him. What's so strange about it? Gu Qinghan has always been kind-hearted. What's wrong with caring for a new class? Song Jinian said this. But his heart was sour with... He's had a crush on Gu Qinghan for years. He tried so hard for so long, but the iceberg, yet now it's melting. A blazing fire has started to burn uncontrollably. The two involved didn't seem to care about the chatter around them. Gu Qinghan lay on the desk and fell asleep. Meanwhile, I unscrewed the lid of my bottle until the water wasn't too hot. Then I gulped it down. At that moment, I wasn't particularly grateful. After all, the one who caused my stomachache was him. It was him. He insisted on adding 3 seasoning packets, but lied, saying he only used It was so spicy my tongue went, and yet there was no water at home. I had no choice but to drink iced soda. Eating like that made Gu Qinghan sick too. But now he seemed perfectly fine. I had to admire him. Of course, that wasn't the main reason. Why we've been cold to each other since The real reason was when we were eating noodles. Han casually grabbed my summer homework to use as He confidently promised it wouldn't get ruined. But by the end of the meal, my homework was a tattered mess, covered in grease. I was furious. I yelled at Gu Qinghan for being but Gu Qinghan thought I was making a big... Anyway, it's not a big deal if the transfers... As they argued, they really got mad at each other. In the end, the argument ended with Gu Qinghan offering his own summer homework as a replacement. Thus began a long Cold War. That's why we didn't go to school together today, and why we haven't spoken all morning. But even in a Cold War, you still have to care about each other. Since we were kids, no matter how bad, Gu Qinghan was usually the first to... Whether he could stand my cold shoulder or not, his mom's nagging alone was enough to wear him down. You're a girl. Girls should be more reserved, not so carefree like Gu Qinghan could recite these lines. Guo Jie almost dropped her jaw. After what just happened, and couldn't resist. Do you and Gu Qinghan know each other? What's your relationship? No, we don't. Thinking about how Gu Qinghan, I got even angry. I thought to myself, all those years of course I don't know him. That's impossible. Based on my year, if you don't know, I'll wash my hair standing on my head. Sukeke joined in. She and Gu Qinghan were class and desk mates for 2 years in high school. She had never seen Gu Qinghan treat anyone so warmly. Are you done yet? Gu Qinghan hadn't fallen asleep. He turned over and, is it so embarrassing to admit we know each other? I glanced at him and shouted, Gu Big Head. Stop kicking my desk. This time, the words Gu Big Head echoed in the class, lingering for a long time. Well, are you satisfied now? Not only does everyone know, but they won't forget it for a while. Not only does everyone know that we've met, but they also know your nickname. I picked it out for him when we were in a new class. Gu Qinghan used to be very thin and small, so his head looked big. That's why I gave him so many nicknames. Even though he's grown up now and looks stunning, with such a small face, I still like calling him that. Haha, Gu Big Head. Even our school flower, Gu Qinghan, this transfer student, is really something. Breaking news. Our school flower, Gu Qinghan, has wooden big head given by the transfer. Knock, knock. A boy from another class suddenly appeared at the classroom door. He knocked on the classroom door. Teacher Zhang wants your class monitor to collect the sum. Running errands for class was always something boys in other classes competed to do. It was just an excuse to catch a glimpse of Gu Qinghan. Song Jingyan immediately stood up. He said to the boy at the door, "Got it? Thank you, classmate." Being in the same class as Gu Qinghan was all, but being the class monitor gave him an extra sense of the classroom was filled with sighs and I thought old Zhang had forgotten. Looks like we still have to hand it in after. Song Jingyan started collecting homework from the row. By the time he got to Gu Qinghan, he had already gathered a large stack. He placed the stack of homework on Gu Qinghan's desk. Shaking his hand, he acted as if he was exhausted. As he collected Sukeke's homework, Song Jingyan grinned and asked Gu Qinghan, "Gu Qinghan, did you bring your summer homework?" Without looking up, Gu Qinghan replied, "No, I didn't," impatient. Song Jingyan swallowed his words. He had to maintain his image in front of Gu Qinghan at all. "All right then, remember to bring it tomorrow." Having been turned down by Gu Qinghan, Song Jingyan naturally took it out on me. He deliberately bumped into my desk. "Oops, sorry, new classmate. This stack of homework is I didn't mean to bump into you," Song Jingyan said with an innocent look. "It's fine," I waved my hand generously. "Who am I, Zhang Haoqi?" The most famous master of comebacks within a 10. I pulled out a summer homework booklet. To be exact, it was Gu Qinghan's summer homework. I deliberately flipped through it in front of him. Here, the handwriting was identical to Gu Qinghan's. Song Jingyan recognized it immediately. He had secretly traced Gu Qinghan's handwriting under the pretense of collecting homework. "What's wrong, class monitor? Any issues?" I looked provocatively at Song Jingyan, who was It's just a little scheming. "Who can't do that?" "No, it's nothing. The handwriting just seems familiar." Song Jingyan forced an awkward, stiff smile. Could this homework really belong to Gu Qinghan? Or did Gu Qinghan do it for him? Song Jingyan's mind was full of questions, but he couldn't voice them. 1, he was afraid of hearing the truth he didn't want. And 2, he feared others would. After all, in everyone's eyes, he was the only one who seemed to match. Song Jingyan left, feeling dejected. Seeing this, Guo Jie put an arm around my neck. "How did you do it?" I've been annoyed with that arrogant Song Jingyan. He's always so full of himself, bragging about having been Gu Qinghan's class for 3 years in middle school, telling everyone how close they are. But in my opinion, Gu Qinghan doesn't want anything to do. Enough is enough. I turned around and smiled, giving Guo Jie a victorious look. On Gu Qinghan's face, a faint, almost imperceptible smile, but it quickly disappeared. He kicked my chair a few times and said, "Can you two quiet down?" Throughout the day, students from other kept appearing at Class 3's door. They glanced inside. Some came to see Gu Qinghan, while others came specifically to see me. After all, on the first day, I made it to the school. This is the first time in the history of number 1 high school. Have I achieved overnight fame? Classmate. Standing in front of someone else and blocking their way isn't a... Gu Qinghan said coldly to a girl. Gu, the school's top, actually took the initiative to talk to someone. Why is that? Obviously, it's because he dislikes being even more than he dislikes me being surrounded. The last class of the day was self-study. The homework on the first day wasn't much. 10 minutes before class ended, Gu Qinghan had finished his homework and packed his bag. He glanced at the clock in front of and started kicking my chair. "Zhang Haoqi, hurry up and pack your bag. School's almost over." I held back my anger and didn't. Gu Qinghan kept kicking. "Did you hear me? What? You don't want to walk home with me? Are you still mad? Why are you so easily upset? Fine, I'll apologize, okay? It's all my fault. Happy now?" The whole school thinks Gu Qinghan is a man of few words, but only I know how chatty he can be. Going a day without talking to me is his limit. All right. I turned around and shot Gu Qinghan a death glare. Gu Qinghan looked at me and continued, "Do you have any questions you don't Just ask me if you do. I don't mind sacrificing my precious time to tutor you." Speechless, I responded, "Gu Qinghan, are you out of your mind? Can you stop being so noisy?" "Shut up already." I finally lost my patience and yelled at Gu Qinghan. Maybe it was the medicine he gave me, but my voice was full of energy. My outburst startled the other classmates. Curious heads turned to look in our direction. Only then did I realize what I had done. I politely bowed my head and apologized. Lu Yu secretly felt pleased. It would be strange if Gu Qinghan liked Jiang Haochen. Thinking that I had considered him a rival made him feel ridiculous, but he forgot why I got angry at Gu Qinghan. It was because Gu Qinghan talked too much. And why does Gu Qinghan usually talk so little? Because he's only interested in me. Even though Gu Qinghan is fierce with me, he stuck out his tongue and made a funny face. I rolled my eyes at Gu Qinghan, and that marked the end of our Cold War. After a day of emotional blows, the students now seemed a bit used to the drama between the two of them. After watching the excitement, they lowered their heads and got back to whatever they were doing. If you ask me, Gu Qinghan definitely likes Jiang. That's obvious to anyone with eyes. Shh, don't let them. What's the big deal if they hear? He's been so arrogant all this. Now he's losing badly. Saying don't let the class monitor hear, but secretly wanting them to hear. Lu Yu clenched his fists. His fingertips turned pale. The school bell finally rang. The students chattered as they walked out. Sukeke slung her bag over one shoulder and asked Gu Qinghan, "Are you going to paint?" Gu Qinghan pointed at me and said, "After school, you still want to walk with Sukeke? Can you stop speaking to me in 2 words?" Gu Qinghan shook his head. "No. My dad is picking me up. If you want to stay with Hua, I'll head home first." I turned to Gu Qinghan and said, and patted Guojie on the back. "Guojie, let's go together." "Then I'm not going. We'll fight another day." After Gu Qinghan said that, he hurried to catch up with us. Sukeke followed behind all by herself, shouting, "Jiang Haochen is coming. The sky has changed. Gu Qinghan, can you at least show some? As a school beauty, you should have." Guojie and I walked toward the school gate. Gu Qinghan and Sukeke followed behind. Wherever handsome guys and beautiful girls go, this highlight quickly stirred up a storm. "Hello, Jiang classmate. My name is Yang Xinyu. I'm from class 9. I like you. Will you be my boyfriend?" Suddenly, in the presence of a crowd, a beautiful girl walked up to me and greeted me. Although I had been confessed to many times, it was still inconvenient to be confessed to. Before I could respond, a cold voice. I saw Gu Qinghan walk over and say, "But you haven't even seen Jiang Haochi before. Now you're saying you like him? Is your liking too cheap?" "Gu Qinghan, don't meddle, okay? I'm talking to Jiang classmate. What's it to you?" This Yang Xinyue is also quite a famous. She's one of the few female presidents at the school. Gu Qinghan grabbed my backpack and pulled me to his side. "Who said it's none of my business? Jiang Haochi's business is my business." "Ridiculous. You think just you can get away with anything." Yang Xinyue looked at me and said, "Can we be boyfriend and girlfriend?" Gu Qinghan raised his voice a little. "Can't you understand what I'm saying?" He rarely spoke with such an excited, Forget it, forget it. Let's go." I tugged at Gu Qinghan's shirt. "That Yang Xinyue, I remember you, but I have to go home now. Goodbye." With a firm pull from me, I dragged Gu Qinghan, and we walked to the school gate under the curious gaze of the crowd. Outside the school gate, across the street, a black van honked twice. It shouted at us, "That's my dad, Jiang Yunchuan." Jiang Shuhao and Gu Qinghan got into the same car. Gu Qinghan asked how my day at school went. "Did you cause any trouble today?" "No trouble. I'm quite popular at just now, some classmates even," Gu Qinghan said in a deliberately sarcastic tone. "Good, no trouble." Gu Qinghan smiled with satisfaction. "Our parents are friends, and they both like these 2 kids. They've even discussed in private whether there's a possibility of us becoming." Of course, that was when we were very young. At this moment, the car drove into the underground parking lot of a high-end. As we entered the house, the smell of food greeted us. My mom's cooking is delicious. Gu Qinghan often says that the food, so he often comes over to eat at my mom always says to Gu Qinghan, "Eat more, Qinghan." Gu Qinghan's bowl was piled high with food. My mom kept putting more. "Look how thin you are." "Thanks, Shenyi. I eat quite a lot. It's just that I digest." "Yeah, he's already had 2 bowls." I joked carelessly. "Eat 2 bowls at your house. Look at you being so stingy." Gu Qinghan kicked my leg and glared at me. After dinner, we did homework in the room. Actually, I was doing the homework. Gu Qinghan was just causing trouble. He had already finished his homework at school and didn't even bring his backpack back. I had a pen in my mouth and was stuck on a physics problem. After thinking for a while, then scratched it out and rewrote it. I was getting increasingly frustrated. "You just made a mistake in the formula." Gu Qinghan leaned over, took, and immediately saw where the problem was. Gu Qinghan leaned over and took a quick look. He immediately figured out the problem. So that's how it is. I feel so embarrassed. I might as well just a whole bunch of results just because I made a mistake. And Zizzy, why are you still so careless like this? At this rate, when will you ever surpass me? Gu Qinghan stayed in the top 3 of our grade for all 3 years of high. Although my grades were also good, it always seemed like the other kids were better. My parents always told me to learn more from Gu Qinghan. This time, I transferred over. Both of us are called Zhuojin. We already agreed that this time's monthly exam, whoever does better gets the other to be their little follower for a month. Gu Qinghan, just wait and see how I'm going to crush. I gritted my teeth and said, the next morning, I opened the door. Gu Qinghan's house is across from mine. The rest of the morning, we rode our bikes on the road. The cheerful ringing of bike. Layli and I ran into each other at the. Sukeke waved at us from afar. Zhang Haoqi? You just took my Qinghan away. Seeing how inseparable Gu Qinghan and I were, Sukeke couldn't help but feel jealous. I was joking. It's been 17 years. This guy has been late. Please take him away from me. I just remembered. Gu Qinghan's middle school. Haha. Looks like we should get to know each other again. No need for that. I've also heard of the famous Su Beauty. Where? I've heard of the famous Su Beauty as well. The two of them seemed to get along very well. It was like they were meeting a long lost. Gu Qinghan locked the bike and squeezed between the two. Hurry up. We're going to be late. A great day starts with morning reading. I was working hard memorizing English words when the homeroom teacher suddenly came in and knocked everyone head down. I have an announcement to make. There will be a mock exam next week. The exam will cover it will be exactly like the college entrance. I hope everyone takes it seriously. Why are we having an exam right after I haven't even prepared yet. Does this mean there's no set scope for the exam? The classroom filled with a chorus of wails. All right. Stop discussing it. Get back to what you were doing. After Mr. Zhang finished, he left the class. The time we had agreed on was fast approaching. Gu Qinghan, I'm going to beat you in this exam. I secretly made up my mind. Zhang Haoqi, are you going to the bathroom? Boys always like to go to the bathroom together during break. Guojie and I are the same. I waved my hand without looking up. Can I still memorize a few words now? Guojie pulled a carton of milk out of his bag. He put in the straw and pushed it in front. You're working so hard. Drink some milk. It'll help your brain. I took a sip of the milk and then continued muttering and memorizing words. Gu Qinghan turned around to look at me and spoke. Cramming at the last minute won't work. Don't struggle. Losing to me isn't shameful. I quickly wrote a few words. I crumpled it into a ball. I threw it forward. It flew in a nice arc and landed on Gu Qinghan opened it. It said in big, beautiful characters, go away. Stop bothering me, you insult me. The deal was that the one who scores lower would be the other's follower for a month. Be hardworking, be patient, you better keep your word. If you lose, don't cry. After saying that, Gu Qinghan suddenly came up with a bat. He grabbed a pen and drew a pig's head on the paper. He covered his mouth and he took a pen and drew a pig's head on the paper. Then he gently stuck it to my back. Sukeke watched Gu Qinghan's actions and shook her head helplessly. Gu Qinghan, I never realized you were so childish. Gu Qinghan turned around, his face back to its cold, aloof, as if the person just now wasn't him. You wouldn't understand. You're not Gu Qinghan. Sukeke put her hands on Gu Qinghan's shoulders and shook him. Who exactly are you? Quick, give me back my Qinghan. Sukeke, are you rebelling? By the way, I'm a Taekwondo black belt. Gu Qinghan grabbed Sukeke's hand and twisted her arm behind her back, pressing it down. All right. I was wrong. Is that enough? Let go. Sukeke quickly pounded the desk and begged. Soon, the bell for class rang. A young, fashionably dressed female teacher walked in, holding a stack of test paper. Is this the new teacher? She's so beautiful. The female teacher on the podium heard the murmurs and smiled. Hello, students. I'm your senior year mathematics teacher. My name is Yang. To better understand your current level, before we start the class, let's do. Ms. Yang skillfully and handed them out to the students. The first row, sure enough, beautiful women are starting off with a test. Sukeke muttered softly, the exam rules don't need to be students who finish can submit their papers directly. Miss Yang paced back and forth in the aisle, glancing at the students' papers. She furrowed her brows and shook her head and nodded in satisfaction when she reached another. The first student to submit his paper was Song. When it comes to stealing the spotlight, he always aims for first place. The second to submit was Guo. I called out to him. He will always help me, and also Guo was about to stand up when Gu Qinghan also nudged his shadow. Could you also help me and Sukeke with this? Guo was a little surprised. If I'm not mistaken, this was the first time Gu Qinghan actively spoke to him. All right, Guo nodded. He gathered all 4 test papers and handed them in. Since the paper was all multiple choice, it was easy to grade. Ms. Yang quickly made tall marks with her pen. She finished grading everything before the... In my class, the student with the best score becomes the class representative. For today's test, a student scored full marks. Zhang Haoji, from now on, you are the mathematics class. Is that all right? I nodded. No problem, teacher. Mathematics is my strong suit. I've always been the math class representative in my previous. Another student missed only one question. Gu Qinghan. When Zhang Haoji is too busy in the future, you can help him out. Gu Qinghan nodded. Okay, teacher. The previous class representative was a chubby boy. Although it was a bit embarrassing for him to step down, he accepted it with ease. Moreover, being a class was such a tiring and thankless task. Zhang Haoji, you're amazing. Help me catch up on math later. After class, Sukeki's eyes, you don't need my help, do you? Gu Qinghan threw her a vocabulary. Just memorize the words better. Sukeke gritted her teeth. Thanks, then muttered to herself, goodness. Look at Gu Qinghan's damn possessiveness. At this moment, 2 girls went to fetch water. They casually said, I used to think Zhang Hao. I didn't expect him to be so good at studying. I didn't expect that studying would be. You mustn't say that in front of Song Jingyan. He'll be upset. I know. Right now, Song Jingyan and I are like fire and water. Because of the posts on the school forum yesterday, he's become the biggest joke in the whole school. Finally, the morning classes ended. The students rushed to the cafeteria. If you don't eat your thoughts are problematic. By the time I ran to the cafeteria with Guo, there was already a long line ahead. I rubbed my growling stomach and tiptoed to look ahead. I wonder what's good to eat today. Do you think we'll miss out on meat by the time it's our turn? I just had a meal at the school cafeteria. I thought it was quite tasty. Unlike Guo, who's been eating here for 2, he's already numb to it. Wow, there's braised pork today. And sweet and sour fish. That's my favorite. My eyes were fixed on the trays of food passing by my classmate. I couldn't take my eyes off. Hurry up and wipe your drool. You're probably laughing at me. Food is essential. Without it, you'll feel weak. Only after eating can we study well in the afternoon. Zhang Haoqi, someone in front of the line is waving at me. Who is that? They're not from our class. My memory isn't that good. A whole day passed, and I still haven't memorized all my classmates' names and leaders. Guo leaned into my ear and whispered, It's Yang Xinyue. Oh, now I remember. Why is he calling me? I wanted to pretend I didn't hear, but Yang Xinyue kept waving at me. Why don't you come over here? Your spot in line is too far back. You might miss out on the good food. The girls in line with her started teasing. Yang Xinyue, why are you so nice to... I quickly waved my hand. Forget it. Cutting in line is not good, and we won't trouble you anymore, Yang. After saying, I turned around and pretended to discuss something with Guo. I ignored Yang Xinyue. Cutting in line isn't good anyway. I didn't want to be associated with that person. However, we were almost at the back of the line. By the time we stood in front of the food counter, there were only a few items left for us to choose from. My favorite had already been cleared out. Well, at least there's food. It's better that Guo and I held our trays and wandered around the cafeteria looking. Since only the senior year has started, the school has only opened half of the cafeteria. Almost all the seats were taken. Zhang Haoqi, Guo, there's space over here. From a distance, Sukeke was waving at us. The entire table was only occupied by Sukeke and Gu Qing. Let's go, Guo. Where should we sit? I silently walked over. Guo had no choice but to follow me. I just sat down and asked, why is everyone crowded together? Why not sit at your own table? Sukeke complained, probably doesn't want to eat. Look at Gu Qinghan, it's so cold. Can you eat sitting next? I nodded. I also realized that the Gu Qinghan here was so different from, hey Gu Qinghan, don't you not eat fish? Why did you get sweet and sour? I saw the sweet and sour and my eyes immediately lit up. Gu Qinghan said, my mom always says fish is good for the eyes. But I took a bite and just couldn't eat anymore. You can have it if you like. I quickly reached for the sweet. If you like it, you can eat it all. I quickly scooped all the sweet and sour and added it to my own plate. Well, I won't be polite then. I picked up a piece and put it in my mouth. How can you not like something this delicious? Such a waste. Gu Qinghan really doesn't like fish. He has never liked it, but he knows I love it. So when he saw the sweet and sour fish, he specially got it for me. But the aloof Gu Qinghan would never say it. Sukeki put down her drink and said to Guojie, Guojie, why don't you say something too? Guojie is also from this and transferred here from another city. She's a bit introverted by nature and doesn't have a desk mate. So she has always kept. I've been sitting behind Sukeke and Guch, and it's always been Sukeke who initiates the I only talk a little. I'm even less familiar with Gu Qinghan. Guojie smiled shyly. I don't really know what to say. I smiled and patted Guojie's shoulder. You're the first good friend I made. I'm really lucky. Guojie smiled and said, I'm the lucky one. I made such a good friend. Are you two going to keep praising each other like this? Gu Qinghan put down his chopstick and then said very sincerely to Guojie, I'm warning you from all my past experience. Being friends with Zhang Haoqi is very risky. Do you see this scar on my hand? Gu Qinghan pointed to a faint on his right hand. Do you know why, in the second year, I had a period where my foot swelled up like I couldn't fit into my and had to wear slippers and hop around on one foot? Gu Qinghan turned and leisurely looked at Sukeke. It happened when I was learning and I fell over. Gu Qinghan turned his head and leisurely looked at Sukeke. When I was learning to ride a bike I fell and got hurt. I won't list everything else. Just be careful yourself. After finishing, Gu Qinghan lowered his head to continue. Listening to Gu Qinghan's complaint, I laughed awkwardly. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Look, it was so long ago. You still remember it so clearly? So Zhang Haoqi, you and Gu Qinghan have no... Guojie understood and asked. Although Gu Qinghan there was also a bit of pride in his voice, as if to say, I've known Zhang Hao. I proudly nodded. Yeah. I've known him since we were little. I've always been his boss. I saw Gu Qinghan's face darken. I hurriedly corrected myself. Oh, no. We've just been buddies since... Don't worry. After the holiday, Gu Qinghan rolled his eyes at me. Have some self-respect, Zhang Hao. Sukeke started counting on her. Let me work this out. I'm Gu Qinghan's Gu Qinghan is Zhang Haoqi's good buddy. Does that mean I'm also Zhang Haoqi's good buddy? Right, I nodded. Sukeke continued counting. Zhang Haoqi and Guojie are good friends. I'm good friends with Zhang Haoqi. So am I also good friends with Guojie? Yes, I interrupted Sukeke. Let's just say we're all good. From now on, we'll share All right, let's have some drinks. Haha, drinks. Guojie also laughed. And so the 4 top students of Class 3, everyone experiences time differently. I felt that this week passed so quickly. Every day, going to and from school with Gu Qinghan was much more fun than being alone before. Before I knew it, it was Friday. I had slowly gotten used to life at school. Today, the weather was Some old fans were on. The weather today was unusually hot. Some old fans were on. The machines above the classroom are spinning rapidly. The effect is not very significant. With the wonderful weekend coming up soon, during the afternoon self-study, the students' minds are already eager to want. They are flying off to who knows where. During the break, Guojie and I had just returned from the restroom we saw the most lively person in the class, Zhao Pengfei. He wrote several lines. I read the title, Annual Voting for Class 3 Senior Year. The categories for voting were quite most handsome classmate, class grass, most beautiful classmate, class flag, best temperament, cutest person, funniest person, and so on. It turns out that every class likes to strange voting events. After writing, Zhao Pengfei tossed the chalk into the chalk box and then said to the students below, everyone is welcome to participate and write the names of the people you think of on a piece and hand it to the podium. We'll sing and dance during the next break. Didn't we already vote once before? Why do we need to vote? Who knows? Maybe it's because Zhang Haoqi transferred. Maybe the class grass is... Who cares? Just vote for fun. Suge came over and asked Gu Qinghan, Hey, Gu Qinghan, do you think this is how it is? Gu Qinghan raised her head slightly and said, I don't know. She didn't care, so Suge continued, It's not true. If I became the class flower, We would have one school flower and one such a perfect match. Gu Qinghan gave him a glance and said, boring. Whoever wants to vote, I'm not participating. After saying this, Gu Qinghan stood up and went out. Guojie tore a piece of scrap paper in half. Zhang Haoqi, who do you want to vote for? She gave me half. I shook my head in distress. I don't know. I'm not familiar with everyone. Guojie patted me on the shoulder. It's okay. Just pick randomly, or you could choose the same as me. For class flower, it must be Gu Qing'an. For class grass, it's definitely you. Without thinking, Guojie wrote Zhang Haoqi behind the class grass, while I wrote and said, I'll choose myself. I can't do it. Then I'll choose you as the class grass. After writing, I folded the paper, and put it together with Guojie's paper on the corner of the desk. The excitement caused by this little vote in the classroom lasted for a while. It gradually calmed down with the ringing of the class bell. In 45 minutes, I finished a math test paper. I closed my pen right when the bell rang. Zhao Pengfei walked up to the podium. He opened each of the papers. Hi, classmates. The exciting moment is here. I'm going to start singing and dancing. I'll read out a name and write it on the blackboard, then mark it with a check. After some counting, Gu Qinghan won the class flower position with a high. Guojie won the title of best with a 3-vote lead. Other categories also had their winners. Only the class grass votes were a bit complicated. 20 votes. 4 votes. I also had 20 votes, a total of 45 votes. One person didn't vote. Everyone looked around. Who didn't vote? Yeah, who didn't vote? Guojie leaned over to me and said, Zhang Haoqi, actually you already won. Song Jingyan must have voted for himself. I shrugged. I don't really care. I didn't really want to win. I don't care about the result at all. But Song Jingyan didn't think so. He was originally the class grass, suddenly losing so much support. Song Jingyan's face showed but inside he was cursing. Those 20 people and Sukeke nudged Gu Qinghan, who was sleeping with her head on the desk. Gu Qinghan, wake up. Did you not vote? Gu Qinghan was never interested in these things. At this moment, he was sleeping. He was very unhappy to be suddenly awakened. What's going on? I told you I'm not interested. Sukeke pulled on his arm again. Now everything else has results. Only the class grass hasn't been decided. Song Jingyan and Zhang Haoqi are tied. Your vote is the deciding one. Gu Qinghan, please vote too. Otherwise, all our efforts will be in vain. Everyone started to persuade him. Yeah, just vote for once, please. Gu Qinghan hadn't woken up yet. He squinted at the blackboard. Sukeke gave him a coquettish smile and said, everything else has been decided. Only the class leader is left. Such a hassle. Gu Qinghan muttered. Standing up from his seat, under everyone's gaze, he walked to the podium. Then under my name, he decisively wrote a big 1. After finishing, he put down the chalk, paused. Gu Qinghan really saw it through to the end. From beginning to end, he never voted for Song. Haha, do we have a new class grass? And just like that, with Gu Qinghan's decisive vote, I was successfully elected as the new class grass of class 3. Song Jingyan suddenly stood up, angrily walked out of the classroom. He blocked Gu Qinghan at the door when he returned. He questioned Gu Qinghan, why do you always support that Zhang Haoqi? What's wrong with me compared to Zhang? Gu Qinghan, expressionless, coldly replied, you're incomparable to Zhang Haoqi, leaving Song Jingyan awkwardly standing in place. After the interesting break time and everyone's enthusiasm for studying increased a bit. We successfully made it until on the way to the school gate. Sukeke asked the other 3 people, Gu Qinghan, anything to do, Guojie? Do you guys have plans for the weekend? How about we study together? I was the first to respond. Sure, I have nothing to do. Gu Qinghan has nothing to do either. Then it's settled. No one's home this weekend. You guys can come over to my place, Sukeke said excitedly. Okay, Zhang Haoqi, I've never been to your house. And Gu Qinghan moved a step aside. You want to distance yourself from us? I never said I was going to marry. Sukeke, hearing that, became anxious. She shook her shoulders and coquettishly said, Qinghan, please, Qinghan, you have to come. If you don't come, I'll be the only girl here. That's not good. Guojie and I showed our disgust. We quickly distanced ourselves from her. We moved about a meter away, but I don't need to study. Gu Qinghan somehow had the ability to release the most destructive power with the calmest tone. These two are not normal. I shook my head in disdain. Looks like at the crucial moment, I'm the one who has to step in to solve the... Oh, this is simple. Since Gu Qinghan doesn't want to hang out with us, we can disband our group of 4. Then we can find another high-quality goddess to replace and form a new group of 4. Done. I nudged Guojie with a standard lovesick smile, saying, anyway, there are plenty of beautiful study geeks, right? Seeing Gu Qinghan's increasingly murderous from behind us, Guojie immediately swallowed what she wanted to say. If you dare try it, I'll tell Uncle Jiang. I'll tell him you've been misbehaving with female classmates. Then Gu Qinghan turned to look at the other 2. Tomorrow morning at 9, don't be late. After leaving this sentence, Gu Qinghan didn't look back as he continued pulling me towards the bus station. Zeze Gu Xiaohua is really possessive. Guojie sighed as he watched Gu Qinghan and me walking away. Sukeke suddenly and thoughtlessly leaned closer. She lowered her voice and said, Guojie, tomorrow at 9, don't be late. Guojie turned his head, smiled, and nodded. Okay. After saying that, he walked across to the other. Gu Qinghan held onto me until we reached the bus stop. Today I took the bus. It was only the first day my dad came to pick us up. From then on, he left early and came back. It's hard to even see him now. So sending me to a new school was just to let me go to school with Gu Qinghan. Taking the bus is fine, but what's with the hands on the bus? I don't know what's going on. I felt like Gu Qinghan was a little upset. For some reason, I couldn't act tough anymore. I could only mumble to myself softly. When we got back to our neighborhood, the greenery was beautiful. The winding paths were lined with various trees and flowers. Why do you keep staring at me? Gu Qinghan noticed with his peripheral that I kept looking back at him after it's nothing. I just realized you're so popular at school. You know, I never know. Gu Qinghan poked my head hard and huffed. You only just noticed? Only you fool would keep complaining about such a super. I quickly smiled again. But you do have a good eye. I admit I'm a little handsome. But next time, be a little more low-key. Choosing me as class hunk isn't really appropriate. Why are you walking so fast? Wait for me. As I was talking, I noticed Gu Qinghan sped up and was walking ahead of me. You must have some misunderstanding about your looks. I thought you were chosen because you were ugly. Gu Qinghan said deliberately when I caught up to him, and I seemed not to have heard him, suddenly asking seriously, do you want some ice cream? Brother, I'll treat you to ice cream. Gu Qinghan was confused by my jumping thoughts. He hadn't reacted yet. He was dragged by me toward the convenience. I picked the vanilla flavor I liked and settled the bill for the strawberry flavor that Gu Qinghan. Then I ran to the swing in the small garden downstairs, and it was evening. It was the time when children usually went downstairs to play. A little boy about 4 or 5 years old was a bit. He couldn't sit on the swing. He could only stand by the side, eagerly shouting. Gu Qinghan, seeing this, felt embarrassed for me. He nudged me and whispered, Jiang Hao, get down quickly. Are you really playing with a little kid? Isn't that a bit embarrassing? I looked up at Gu Qinghan. Without any shame, I said, what's embarrassing about it? Does everything need to be based on who came first? Then I turned to ask the little boy, Lile, do you think I'm handsome? The little boy immediately raised his head proudly. In a childish voice, he said, Brother Hao is he's the most handsome brother I've ever seen. I smiled satisfied. Then help me push the swing for a minute. And I'll give the swing to you, okay? Okay, it's a deal. After saying, the little boy went around behind and started pushing. At this moment, Gu Qinghan really wanted to find a crack in the. If the boy's parents saw this, they would definitely think we were bullying the little kid. Lile, right? Please stand back a bit. Let me help you push, okay? Although Gu Qinghan was aloof, he was very kind to children. Who would have known that the little boy immediately rejected, no, I can push it myself. I don't need your help. The little guy was ungrateful. He was so stuck, so Gu Qinghan leaned against the nearby horizontal bar. He was eating ice cream while watching the little boy push the swing. All right, Lily, now it's your turn to play. 1 minute later, I finally got up from the swing. I patted my butt and walked away. You're really something. Bullying, even a little kid. Maybe he was thinking of the years when he was crushed by me. Gu Qinghan I didn't respond to his remark. Instead, I smiled and asked him, Gu Qinghan, do you remember when we were little? There was a time when you finished your ice and then came to grab mine. You made me cry. You were afraid. You're just like Lele, you helped me push. Of course I remember. You pushed for a long, so I kept pushing and pushing. The next day, my arms were so. As they talked, both those were the good times. Every day was carefree. We didn't have to think about anything. Suddenly, I felt a bit, but I couldn't quite figure out why. Maybe it was because we grew up. In just 1 year, I'll be taking. With pressure comes confusion about in the past, I thought my future life would be just living with playing with Gu Qinghan. I always took it for granted that Gu Qinghan and I were each other, but recently I suddenly realized that the world is so big. My mom came into my room and suddenly opened the curtains. Why are you still in bed? It's so late. Why aren't you up yet? The sunlight shone through the glass window, hitting my face just right. What time is it? I mumbled, struggling a little. Then I pulled the blanket over my head and fell back asleep. Shen Bing pulled me out of the blanket. It's already 8:30. Shen Bing pulled me out of the blanket. It's already 8:30. Why aren't you up? Hurry up and get ready. I passed through the living room with my out of the corner of my I suddenly noticed a beautiful figure sitting on the I looked closely. It was Gu Qinghan. Early riser, lazy pig, Gu Qinghan swallowed the sandwich in his. He tilted his head and greeted me. I've been waiting for you for 13 minutes and 4. Shut up and eat your breakfast. Take this with you and eat it with your friends later. My mom came out of the kitchen with 2 boxes and packed them into my back. They were filled with various chopped fruits. She didn't forget to complain about her son, Zhang Haoqi. Hurry up and wash up. Look at you, such a mess. Who would want to marry you in the future? They'd be so unlucky. Ha ha! Gu Qinghan almost choked on his milk after hearing that. I turned and entered the bathroom. The next second, I was shocked by my reflection in the mirror. My hair looked like it had been struck by lightning last night. There were still traces of drool at the corner of my mouth. There was a sound of splashing water in the bathroom. 10 minutes later, a refreshed and handsome version of me emerged. Mom, we're leaving. I put on my backpack, grabbed a sandwich from the table, and dragged Gu Qinghan out the door. Be careful on the way. Come back early. Shen Bing's instructions faded away as it was about a 20-minute drive. When we were almost there, Guojie sent me a message. He had just gotten off the bus and was waiting at the bus stop. So late, Gu Qinghan. You're here. Let's go in quickly. Since Gu Qinghan didn't talk, Guojie had already been bombarded. The security guard at the community wouldn't let until they called Sukeke. I had heard that Sukeke was a rich second generation. They didn't feel at ease until they called Sukeke. I had heard that Sukeke was a rich second generation. I didn't expect her community to be so impressive. As soon as we entered, Sukeke gave us a quick tour. The house was clean and tidy. The decor wasn't luxurious at all, but rather simple and plain. Sukeke, Guojie, and I always end up chatting away every night. Only Gu Qinghan stays awake. He still remembers we're here to study. After the tour of the house, he spoke up. Now that we've finished the tour, isn't it? I checked the time. It was already almost 10 o'clock. The 4 of us quickly sat down at the dining table. Guojie and I sat on one side, and Gu Qinghan and Sukeke sat on the other side. Since the mock exams are next week, there's no homework this weekend. It was just free review for everyone. My class is known as the elite class. We all chose traditional science subjects like physics and biology. Guojie suggested each of us should be in charge of the subject we're best at. This way, the review will be more efficient. I'm best at physics and biology. My weakest subject is Chinese. I immediately said I'm best at math and chemistry. My worst subject is English. Just thinking about English makes my head hurt. Sukeke quickly followed up. Funny, Guojie. I'm the opposite of you. My Chinese is excellent. As for English, it's not that great. After she finished, the 3 of us turned to look at Gu Qinghan. Gu Qinghan helplessly shrugged. He said lightly, I can't answer that question, because I'm good at every subject. The 3 of us silently rolled our eyes. But we couldn't refute him. This guy is so narcissistic. But after all, Gu Qinghan, this university genius, is indeed powerful. He has been in the top 3 all throughout, never fallen off his Guojie smiled and summarized. Then it settled. Guojie, you'll be in charge of helping us review math. I'll take care of physics. Sukeke is responsible for As for Gu Qinghan, the more capable, the more. How about handling the other subjects? If there's no problem, then let's start quickly. Sukeke glanced at me. She said, how about we start with math while our minds are. I cautiously handed the math book. Gu Qinghan took the math book and started flipping through it, constantly circling key points with a pen. 1 minute later, he handed the book back. If you can understand all the key points, a score of 140 should be no. I glanced at them and frowned. With this level, you still want to be my competitor? Sukeke looked at me in surprise. Are you really going to compete with Gu Qinghan? After so many years of studying, this is the first time. I waved my hand and said, Yes, I'm competing with him. I then grabbed my pen. Then I placed the paper in the middle of the three of them. These are 5 questions I came up with and important exam topics. You can give them a try. Gu Jinhan looked at these questions. His beautiful eyes narrowed. It seemed like he was interested. Sukeke looked at the questions. These are tough. You've mixed so many knowledge points together. Sukeke gave me a big thumbs up and praised me highly. The three of them began to solve the problems. But 20 minutes passed. None of them could solve all the problems, especially Gu Qinghan. He struggled with the last question. I took a look at their papers, nodded and said, actually, it's not bad. Even if you can't solve it, writing down these formulas will still get you some points. I took their papers and glanced at them, nodded and said, actually, it's not bad. Even if you can't solve it, writing down these formulas will still earn you some points. Then I took out a blank piece of calculation paper and began to explain the solution steps one by one. Su Xiaoxiao and Guo Jie stared with wide and nodded repeatedly. After listening to my it seemed like their minds had been unlocked, as if they completely understood. Sukeke reached out to pat my head, but I swiftly dodged. She couldn't help but sigh. Wow! There's actually such a way to solve math problems. Zhang Hao, what's inside your head? Then she received a stern look from Gu Qinghan. I saw Guo Jie slumped with his head on the table. I couldn't help but ask in concern, why are you so down? Guo Jie looked like he had been tortured by math, pouting miserably. Math is too hard. I comforted him, indeed. Then suddenly remembered I had fruit in my bag. I immediately perked up. Time for a break. Let's eat the fruit and continue afterward. Sukeke looked at the time and said, it's almost noon. What do you want to eat for lunch? I'll make it for you. When she said that, everyone was stunned. I widened my eyes in disbelief. You can cook? Sukeke proudly rolled up her sleeves and said, of course, I'll show you in a moment. We didn't hold back and watched in the kitchen. Sukeke sliced vegetables and cooked the dishes smooth with such skill. Bojie and I couldn't help but exclaim. Didn't expect Sukeke to have this side to her. I suddenly felt a chill down my back. It was the resentful look from Gu Qinghan behind me. The food was ready quickly. Sukeke took 4 plates and served the rice. Then she served the curry beef from the pot and poured it over. It had both meat and vegetables. It was also deliciously fragrant. Okay, please enjoy, everyone. The fragrance seemed to have sprouted little, tempting me and Guojie's stomachs. Guojie took a bite. So delicious. He rarely speaks with such excitement. I was stuffing it into my mouth in large bites. I couldn't help but praise him. I didn't expect. Sukeke, you're actually this good. Sukeke finally felt the approval from us. She proudly raised an eye. How about it? I'm better than you at cooking, right? Isn't it just cooking? I can do it too, Gu Qing. I almost sprayed curry all over his face. I sarcastically said, Gu Qinghan, how dare you? Last time I ate boiled noodles, and it gave me stomach troubles for a whole. Sukeke and Guo Jie, their shoulders were shaking with suppressed giggles. The person who would wash the dishes was decided by rock, paper, scissors. Heaven is absolutely fair. Gu Qinghan won by skill. There was no doubt about it. But when it came to games, he was always unlucky. Especially when I was involved. When Gu Qinghan finished washing, the Guo Jie and I were lying on the table. At this time, the sunlight was shining through it was shining on my. Gu Qinghan quietly moved a stool and sat. He picked up a notebook from the blocking this small gesture made Gu Qinghan slowly stretch his. When he looked up, his gaze met Guo Jie's. Guo Jie was smiling at him. He gestured with his hand on his nose. It was the first time Guo Jie realized that the usually carefree Gu Qinghan could be so. He gestured an okay sign. Understanding, he turned away and closed his eyes. After a while, Sukeke and Wang Huihui came back. She shouted from the door, I'm back! Understanding, I turned my head and closed my eyes. After a while, Sukeke and Wang Huihui came back. She shouted from the door, I'm back! Gu Qinghan immediately pulled his hand back. Guo Jie and I were also awakened. I rubbed my eyes, sleepily asked, Hey, Gu Qinghan, what are you sitting here? Gu Qinghan replied, quickly moving the stool back to his position. I'm sitting here to watch you drool more clearly. Look, you've made a mess on the table. I quickly touched my mouth, then looked at the table. I'm not drooling. Seeing this, Guo Jie timely helped Gu Qinghan out. Let's continue. I just summed up my physics scores roughly. You can check if it's useful for you. The day passed quickly. It was soon time to head home. With 4 top students together, efficiency is everyone helped each other, complimenting each. In just one day, we had reviewed almost. I had just finished my shower, lying in bed ready to sleep. Then my phone rang. I opened my phone. The message was from the 4 salt tyrants. This name was chosen by Qingmei because she felt that being a salt tyrant. A holiday message came. Good luck to everyone for tomorrow. Tsukeki, the beauty, also wishing Gu Qinghan takes first place. I replied, good night, everyone. Good luck. Only Gu Qinghan didn't respond. Maybe he had already gone to sleep. I waited for a while, thinking that he probably wouldn't reply. I put my phone aside and prepared. Then, just as I closed, the phone rang again. I quickly got up. It was a private message from Gu Qinghan with a smiling emoji. The screen lit up my face. I quickly got up and opened my phone to check. It was a private message from Gu Qinghan saying, good luck, smiling emoji. The screen lit up my face. The corners of my mouth curved into the same. Hu Yizhong's exam is arranged by scores. Gu Qinghan was naturally in the first seat of the first exam. As for me, as a transfer student with a history score of 0, I was placed in the last seat of the last exam room. The 2 people who were inseparable, suddenly one became the leader, and the other became the tail. The boys from the other class in this always look forward to the arrival of exam week, because only during this time can they experience what it's like to be in the same class as Gu Qinghan. If they're lucky, they might get to speak to him for a moment. When Gu Qinghan walked in, a wave of excitement indeed surged in the class. He's here, he's here. Gu Qinghan is here. Before Gu Qinghan even arrived, there was already a drink bottle on his seat, with a note attached, saying good luck on the exam. Gu Qinghan glanced at the drink, and after the invigilator walked in, he placed it on the podium. Teacher, have some water. The invigilator was a man in his middle age with a slightly balding head. He immediately guessed that the drink was from other students for Gu Qinghan. He tried it first and said to everyone, some boys don't study well and spend their days thinking of bringing tea and water. Next time, stop messing around with these things. Put more effort into your studies, okay? On the other side, my arrival in the last exam room, also Jiang Haoqi is indeed handsome. No doubt about that. Someone who could catch the Gu de Xiaohua must be someone special. I could only pretend that I didn't hear anything. I pushed through the crowd and found my seat. My seat was in the farthest corner of the exam room, right behind the last person in the grade. I was quite satisfied with this. It's low profile. The last person in the grade is often just as well known. They are the figures everyone talks about. What a coincidence. This person turns out to be an old acquaintance. Hey, curious? Liang Xinyue saw me from afar and came over to greet me. He sat there directly, tall and slim, with a chic aura. People who didn't know him would never guess, from his appearance, that he was actually a huge academic. I ignored him. I walked straight to my seat and sat down. As soon as I sat down, Yang Xinyue turned around and asked me, I called you, why didn't you respond? I gave him a speechless look. If you want to say see you later, forget it. I don't cheat. Yang Xinyue laughed with a, sometimes you're quite like Gu Qinghan. A bit full of yourself. When did I say I would copy you? I never cheat, okay? I nodded and said true. If I cheated, I wouldn't be last in the grade. With the bell ringing, the exam officially began. Gu Qinghan finished the test paper. Since he couldn't hand in the paper early, he just lay on the desk. Most other students also finished. They just quietly waited. But in my exam room, the classroom became noisy as, aside from a few students, the rest of the people were either lost in or tapping on desks or playing with pens. I sighed. My composition wasn't finished. Suddenly Yang Xinyue shouted loudly. I hadn't finished my composition, and the noise was real. Suddenly Liang Xinyue's voice shouted, neither too soft nor too. Can it be a bit quieter during the exam? Immediately, everyone in the room, including the invigilating teacher, wasn't Liang Xinyue also one of the noisy ones? He was always not very obedient during exams, but now he's maintaining order. Could it be that the noise disturbed his... But his shout actually worked. The classroom quickly became quiet, including in the subsequent exams. When the bell rang, signaling the end, the last person in each row had to get up. When I collected Liang Qinyu's paper, I found the entire composition page. He hadn't written the composition at all. I found it a bit strange. He could have written a few words. I didn't know if he was too lazy to write, or if he deliberately didn't write it. All right, everyone can leave now. The invigilator said we could leave. Gu Qinghan was the first to leave the exam. Someone called out to Gu Qinghan from behind. Gu Qinghan recognized the voice. It was Song Jinian. Gu Qinghan pretended and continued walking forward. Song Jinian caught up. With a smile, he asked, "How was your—" Gu Qinghan replied calmly, "Pretty good." He turned to leave. But Song Jinian wasn't giving up. He continued, "Do you have the math? I heard you always predict the exam questions." Gu Qinghan got a bit impatient. Why does this person act like chewing gum? Once it sticks, it's impossible to get rid of. He was about to get angry when Su Gei suddenly popped. "I predicted it." He said, "Do you want to hear it, sir?" He glanced at Qinghan. Gu Qinghan quickly seized the I finished collecting the papers and taking my time to pack up. Suddenly, the classroom became— everyone's eyes turned toward the door. Wasn't that Gu Qinghan? Everyone's eyes turned toward the door. Isn't that Gu Qinghan? What's he doing here? Could it be that he's here to find— But who could he be looking for here? I think you're just confused from— Sure enough, Gu Qinghan knocked on the classroom door. He shouted toward the last row at me, "Jiang Haoqi, hurry up!" His gaze landed on the front seat. When he saw Yang Xinyue's face, Gu Qinghan couldn't help but frown. I quickly walked up to Gu Qinghan. "What are you doing here? If I'm not mistaken, the first exam room is on the other side of— You wouldn't pass by here on your way to our—" Gu Qinghan didn't bother making up an excuse. "Geez, why do you talk so much?" He quickly changed the topic. While walking, he asked, "How is it? Are you used to this exam room yet?" I waved my hand and said, "At first, I wasn't used to it. It was too noisy." Later, I suddenly thought about Yang Xinyue's. I couldn't help but ask, What kind of person is he?" Qinghan hadn't heard a from me before, but this time he seemed to sense something. "Why are you asking about him all of a sudden? What did he say to you?" I looked at Gu Qinghan and said, "He didn't say anything. I was just curious." "Do you know his composition? I seriously suspect he's doing it on— He's always at the bottom of the rankings." Gu Qinghan suddenly stopped walking. He gave me a stern look and said, "So what? Maybe he's having family issues, so he deliberately refuses to study or something. Anyway, I warn you, stay away from him." I scoffed. "Why do you care about me?" Gu Qinghan replied, "Because Jiangsu Shenyi." Gu Qinghan said, and immediately felt a bit taller. On our way, everyone who whispered behind their hands. And I, along with Gu Qinghan, they are all covering their mouths and whisper. Meanwhile, Gu Qinghan and I seem to have long gotten used to being the center of it. We're chatting and bickering, not caring about the looks around us. When they saw us, Suke suddenly came forward excitedly. "You're finally back. Sister Guo has been waiting outside the dining hall. Let's go eat. I'm starving." The 4 academic elites are gathering in the cafeteria. During lunch, I suddenly remembered an important point that might be on— I casually mentioned it at the table. After the math exam, the 3 of them surrounded me. They showered me with praise. Suke excitedly said, "Jiang Haoqi, thank goodness you helped us review math this time. I think I can score 10 points higher than—" Guojie unscrewed the cap on the iced cola she bought from the shop. She handed it to me. "Good," I said. "You're really frugal. This afternoon, that point you mentioned it was just perfect for the last big question on—" I glanced at him. "Is this really worth a bottle of soda?" Wenyan smiled immediately. No, let me say it. What do you want?" "Everyone gets a share." Suke raised her hand. "I want hot pot." Hot pot. I also— Afterwards, Suke saw Gu Qinghan. She made the final decision. "So it's settled. This week deal." The 3-day mock exam soon passed. The last afternoon, then began the long and uneasy wait. Waiting for the results to come out. Gu Qinghan turned around and looked at me. "So how I stubbornly said, "Not much. Maybe just 99.99%. Actually, a few days ago, after witnessing Gu Qinghan's strength, I regretted why I had been so impulsive and made such a— But I told myself not to back." Gu Qinghan smiled lightly. "All right, then I'll wait and see. I regret making such a bet without knowing my limit, but I told myself I can't back down." Gu Qinghan smiled softly. "All right, I'll just wait then." Everyone was still chattering excitedly, comparing. Our homeroom teacher, Mr. Zhang, walked. He cleared his throat. Hey, you've all worked hard these past few days with exams. This afternoon's self-study session is go outside and play on the field." A cheer immediately erupted in the classroom. Finally, there was some free time. The boys' first choice was, of course, to play whether on the basketball court or the soccer. They were always crowded. Guojie and I went straight to play basketball. Let's go. Hurry up. Let's go watch Jiang Haoqi." 2 girls in the front row shouted as they left the class. "Qinghan, how about we go watch too?" Seeing that all the girls from our class were going to watch them, I couldn't help but want to join in the fun. Although Gu Qinghan and I grew up together, he never really watched me play basketball. After all, I was a small kid in elementary school, but I often played with them in the back alleys. All right, let's go then. I want to see how well he really plays, I said as I walked with Suke toward the playground. Hey, Qinghan, if you're going to watch, hurry up. Suke grabbed Gu Qinghan and quickly walked out of the classroom. Wait, this isn't the way to the playground. We should be turning right after going down the stairs, but Suke pulled me left instead. Gu Qinghan couldn't help but wonder, isn't this the direction to the shop? You're so dumb. On such a hot day. You're going to watch Jiang Hao. Aren't you going to bring him a bottle of water? Suke said with an expression of disbelief. I really don't know what to do with you. How could you not think of that? Isn't that unnecessary? There must be plenty of girls giving him water. He's not lacking my bottle. How could he not lack it? Besides, whether he lacks it is his problem. Whether you bring it is your problem. Suke was really committed to playing the match. She was working hard to help. Suddenly, Gu Qinghan narrowed his eyes and questioned Suke. Wait, don't tell me you like Zhang Haoqi. Are you going to bring him water too? Suke almost fainted from anger. What are you saying? I don't like Zhang Haoqi. Gu Qinghan tightened his lips. So you're not going to bring water to Jiang Haoqi, but to Guo Jie? Suke was getting really frustrated. I'm not looking at anyone. Are you coming or not? As soon as Gu Qinghan and Suke entered the gym, they could hear cheers from inside. In the center, there was the sound of the basketball hitting the rim. The gym wasn't any cooler than the outdoors. Standing at the gym door, you could smell the sweat of the young athletes. Gu Qinghan wrinkled his nose. With so many people here watching, I wonder what's so interesting about it. Actually, most of the girls don't understand things like laser or a jump shot. They're just here to look at the handsome. Gu Qinghan spotted me on the court at once. I had just made a three-point shot. I aimed and shot in one smooth motion. The movement was flawless. It caused the girls in the stands to scream. Gu Qinghan and Suke squeezed to the front row. I happened to spot them. I smiled slightly in their direction. This made the crowd cheer even louder. This transfer student is so handsome. I'm going to be his fan. But Gu Qinghan didn't pay attention to any of it. He watched me on the court, looking healthy and so full of youthful charm. A single smile could make these girls scream. He had only transferred here recently, and yet Gu Qinghan pouted and muttered, just as I walked over. I waved my hand in front of his eyes. Hey, what are you thinking? Did I make you fall with my basket? Gu Qinghan was about to respond when he realized it was halftime. He stood there in a daze. I naturally took the drink from his hand. This is for me, right? Thanks, but next time get me. I don't like peach flavor. I don't like peach flavored. Gu Qinghan just realized. Originally, there were a lot of people around. If you don't like it, don't. So many people are waiting to give you water. Sister Guo and I gulped down a few sips. Just half a bottle went down. Then we handed the remaining drinks to Gu Qinghan and Sukeke and went back to the court. I had just returned. Sukeke squeezed to Gu, excitedly describing what had just happened. Hey Qinghan, did you just see how Zhang Haoqi rejected the water? He came straight to you. The scene was so... How did you miss that? I can't understand basketball. I was thinking about that chemistry exam. Gu Qinghan didn't know why he lied. Maybe he never imagined that one day he'd be fangirling over Zhang Haoqi. Right? Sukeke shook her head while muttering. No wonder he's always first. You couldn't tell that the usually aloof Gu Qinghan was a little off today. Gu Qinghan snapped back to reality and asked, what did you... Sukeke shook her head. Nothing, just saying you're studying too much. Gu Qinghan, proud as always, had no mood to argue. He turned his attention back to me. Playing basketball was quite fun. The final result was as expected. My team won by a large margin. The crowd on the sidelines continued to cheer. The cheers lasted a long time. This time, Gu Qinghan didn't zone out. Instead, when I walked over, he timely handed me the drink from his arms. I was startled for a second. Then I smiled and reached out to take it. It was when I walked over. He casually handed me the drink from his arms. I was startled for a second. Then I smiled and reached out to take it. At that moment, the sweat on my forehead seemed to glisten in his eyes. The smell of sweat in the gym seemed to sweeten. I softly said to Gu Qinghan, let's go. Pack up, we're going home. I blurted out, feeling flustered. It felt like something was different, but also like nothing had changed. I had heard this countless times before. The words echoed in Gu Qinghan's mind. What's wrong, Qinghan? Why is your face so red? Is it too stuffy in the gym? On the way back to the class, Sukeke noticed Gu Qinghan suddenly stopped talking, his face still slightly red. She thought he had heat stroke. Nothing, nothing. Gu Qinghan quickly shook, hopping a few steps to prove he was fine. I'm fine, don't worry. When I saw Gu Qinghan again, everything returned to how it was before, cold and stiff as usual. On the way home, I watched as Gu Qinghan ate his chicken burger without any care for him. I couldn't help but applaud him. You really don't care about your image even with a joke. In front of you, I don't need to care about. Gu Qinghan glanced around, and without thinking, he replied, True. Are you still eating later? Of course I am. Seeing my worried expression, Gu Qinghan thought I was afraid he would compete with me for food. Don't worry. I won't be mooching at your place. Some people are anxious these days, afraid they'll regress when the results come out. Some are eagerly awaiting, wanting to see if their efforts have paid off. Every time a teacher enters, I stretch my neck thinking the results. I kept waiting until Friday. Before the first class in the after I came back from the restaurant, I saw Gu Qinghan's seat empty. He hadn't returned even after the bell rang. 10 minutes passed, and I turned to Sister Guo and asked, Where's Qinghan? Where's Qinghan? Where did he go? Sister Guo said, He went to help the teacher calculate to make sure the results are out before he, along with the class, and Song Jingyan went to help the teacher calculate. In the classroom office, the teachers of each subject were quickly and enthusiastic. Normally, they would leave the last exam papers for the end, since this exam room it was the hardest to grade. Old Zhang angrily marked I'm so mad. This kid is writing not completely off topic. The biology teacher shook. She laughed and said, Look at this. On the paper, it said, Teacher, please, give. I really don't know this question. And I'm trying to act. The math teacher showed a satisfied smile and I've got a She marked the paper with big, bold check marks, nodding as she graded. The paper is neat. The thought process is this score should be from I need to find out who this is. Gu Qinghan listened quietly. For some reason, he felt a little proud inside. He chuckled softly. The class teacher, old Zhang, quickly spoke. Who else could it be? Our class is Zhang Hao. He's in the last exam room. At this moment, no matter how much he criticized the kids in class, once they were out the door, they were all good. Besides, I'm usually well behaved. I haven't caused any trouble. This time, I even saved. When Gu Qinghan and the others the papers were still sealed. But it didn't matter if they were sealed. For Gu Qinghan, it made no difference. Gu Qinghan wrote my math score on the paper. The paper was still sealed, but whether it was sealed or not, it made no difference to Gu Qinghan. Gu Qinghan wrote my math score on the paper. He nodded in satisfaction. It seemed like the score was his own. On the other side, I spent the next 2 periods waiting anxiously. Finally, Gu Qinghan and old Zhang arrived. The class monitor and Gu helped old Zhang place the stacks of papers on the teacher's desk. Then they returned to their seat. Only then did old Zhang slowly speak up. Everyone stopped writing for a moment. The results of the final exam are out. We'll start handing out the papers now. Although I knew I wouldn't have done badly, I was still a bit nervous. My palms were slightly sweating, especially when Gu Qinghan came back. He gave me an ambiguous smile, which made me even more anxious. Old Zhang pushed his black glasses up the bridge of his nose. His face carried a bit of seriousness. Let me first talk about the overall situation. Through this mock exam, I've noticed that many students still lack a sense of urgency. You can feel that the atmosphere is off. The students all lowered their heads, afraid of accidentally making eye contact and getting called out for a scolding. Old Zhang raised his other hand, tapping the score sheet in his hand. He continued, As for this exam, the overall level of the class is still pretty good. Some students have made significant progress. Now I'll highlight a few students. I hope everyone can learn from them. With that, he picked up the papers and began reading. Sukeke 6 and 12 points. 6 and 55 points. Sukeke and Guo Jie, upon hearing their score, excitedly went up to collect their papers. Old Zhang continued, Song Jingyan, 686 points. Below the podium, the room was filled with soft, crisp. That person is really strong. This exam was really hard, and his score is even higher than last time. Under the students' praise, Song Jingyan stood up to collect his. Though he appeared calm on the surface, as he passed by me, he suddenly gave me a triumphant glance. He even snapped his paper with his fingers. Finally, old Zhang raised the last 2 papers. With a proud look on his face, he became more and more. This time, there are 2 students in our class who scored above. Upon hearing this, The students began whispering. Even the class monitor didn't score above 7. One of them must be Gu Qinghan. What about the other one? Suddenly, someone seemed to realize something and got excited. They started whispering to the people around them. Old Zhang tapped the table to signal for silence. Then he began reading the name Jiang Haoqi, 708 points. The students below started discussing again. Several female students excitedly shook their classmates' arms. After confirming that he hadn't misheard, Song Jingnian's face. With that, I slowly stood up from my seat to collect my paper, and as I did, I cast a glance at the last one. Then, smiling, I looked at Gu Qinghan before returning to my seat. Old Zheng began reading the last paper, Gu Qinghan.